who I think is 6'8". He's another high draft pick out of Oregon, as I mentioned earlier, I believe. They did pick up Richard Sherman, and Reuben Foster is a really good linebacker from the Roll Tide ranks. They had a minus 52 point differential last year. Ricky, a lot of teams are saying that the 49ers could surprise and also go from worst to first. Do you think they have the upside to do so?
No chance. And they lost their best running back last year. Carlos Hyde's gone. And Jimmy Garoppolo, who's he throwing the ball to?
Marquise Goodwin, who's a good Olympian. I don't know if he's a good football player.
Goodwin's really fast, right? But I don't know if you can rely on him and a backfield of Jerick McKinnon to get it done offensively. Yeah, their defense is good, and we know that. They've got some studs, and adding Richard Sherman really helps. And what a cocky move by Richard Sherman to get traded within the division, right? Typical Richard Sherman stuff. Good for him. But I just don't think the 49ers are going to be able to they went 6-10 last year. If they go 500, I think that'll be a really good season for them. But I don't buy into the hype, and don't buy into the Jimmy G hype on fantasy either. He's ranked way too high, something we'll get into a little bit later. But if you need a kicker in fantasy, Robbie Gould is your guy.
Gould is gold, as the Chicago people say.
Yeah, Robbie Gould. He single-footedly beat the Bears last season. They won 15-0, all 5 field goals from Robbie Gould. And he's kind of a perfect poetic justice, right? Because the Bears should have just given him the $1 million he wanted, and we keep him, and then we have maybe 2 more wins last year. Instead, we go fishing for kickers and whatever. I don't think the 49ers will be over 500.
And little bit under the radar take, Robbie Gould could have been the best kicker of all time if he wasn't kicking in the Windy City for the majority of his career. That dude is seriously talented. He is a 49er. And I'm with you. I'm not buying the 49ers either. I think Garoppolo is certainly overrated. It's year 2 of Kyle Shanahan, who, if you're not familiar, was the offensive coordinator of the Atlanta Falcons in 2016 when they did lead the league in points and Matt Ryan threw for over 30 touchdowns his MVP season. So he's a guy that certainly can develop people and, make something out of nothing, kind of like what McVay did last year. So they're certainly a sleeper team, but I'm kind of waiting until they have to show me before I'm going to believe in them. That is the NFC West. So now that we talked some reality football, Rick, time to get to the fantasy football. We're doing ride or hide, guys, because everyone does ride or die. And you know what? We're original on the flow. We're not going to copy people. So ride or hide. And these are guys, again, we've kind of been doing this last couple weeks, but guys that we're higher on than the typical rankings suggest. So, Rick, who are you going to go with first? We're going to do QB, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. Who's your first guy up?
Oh, man, my first guy. Well, we're starting with QB, right, because quarterbacks rule the world. And I'm going with Jared Goff. He's ranked 18th in according to ESPN. We're going to base all our rankings on ESPN. And last season, Jared Goff, 28 touchdowns with 7 interception ratio. And he was throwing for the team that scored the most points in the NFL last year. Threw for 3,800 yards, big season out of him. And this was really his first year on the scene, right? So in 2016, he didn't play that much, had 5 touchdowns to 7 interception ratio. Jared Goff is coming. And I think he's going to finish higher than 18th on ESPN's list next season. With all the weapons he has in LA, Jared Goff's going to have a top 15 season for fantasy QBs.
Yeah, I mean, former number 1 overall pick out of California. He's got Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Brandon Cooks, and Todd Gurley. So he certainly has the weapons to do it. My guy, I'm going to get this guy's jersey, I think. Deshaun Watson. ESPN, his rank is 6th, which is high. But my rank of him is 3rd. And let me just spit you off his stats when he started. So he started 5 weeks last year, starting in week 3. Week 3, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 8 runs for 41 yards. His fantasy total, 20 points. Pretty good. Week 4, 283 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 runs for 24 yards and a touchdown, 33.7 points. That was top 3 in the position that week. Week 5, 261 yards, 5 tutties, 0 interceptions, 3 runs for 31 yards, 35 fantasy points. That was good for first that week. Week 6, 6 runs for 23 yards, and he threw for 225 yards. Incredibly efficient. 3 touchdowns, 1 interceptions, 23 points. And then week 8, the last week he played before he went down, 400 yards passing, 4 tutties, 3 interceptions, 8 runs for 67 yards and 33 fantasy points. This guy was literally on pace to be the best quarterback of all time, although I don't think he does it in his sophomore year. We saw Carson Wentz in year 2 leading the league in touchdowns until he got injured in week 13. I think Deshaun Watson, again in fantasy circles with his ability to run, can absolutely be a top 2 quarterback this year. I have him 3rd, but that might even be too low. There are some good upside quarterbacks for you. I like Rick's if you want to target a quarterback at the back end. Goff is your guy. If you want to pick a guy early, I suggest Deshaun Watson. Running backs, Rick, who do you have?
I have someone you should not pick at all. Joe Mixon.
I like this.
They got him ranked at 15th. He only rushed for 626 yards and scored 4 touchdowns last year. Granted, Jeremy Hill's gone, so he's RB1 down in Cincinnati, but they've got a tough schedule this year. They play against some really good defensive teams. I don't think Joe Mixon's the guy that's going to finish in the top 15 this season. Don't draft him high, if at all.
I support it. I think Giovanni Bernard is still there. Yeah, I think he's certainly one of those guys that was electric in college, but in the NFL, we just really haven't seen his game-making ability. My guy, Devontae Freeman from ESPN. Devontae Freeman, the Atlanta Falcons' former Florida State University Seminole. ESPN has him ranked 12th. He's 9th on my list, so not a huge gap, but again, in the first 2 rounds, when you're deciding between running backs, you got to know who your guys are and who you're riding with and who you're not. I'm going with Devontae Freeman. His last 3 years fantasy finishes. Last year he was 15th, only 13 games played, however. He was 9th when he went down. In 2016, he was 6th overall. And then in 2015, he was running back number 1 in all of fantasy. So this is a guy, when he's healthy, he plays. He's had an 80-catch season. In PPR leagues, he's an absolute monster. If you're in standard, I would not suggest drafting him this high. But if you're in PPR, he could arguably be top 3 in the position in running back receptions. A really good guy. He's one of my guys. So draft Devontae Freeman at the end of the first round or early in the second and feel good about it. Rick, you got a Texan for your wide receiver slot.
Yeah, Will Fuller, he's going to get behind the secondary this year and catch 7 more touchdowns. He didn't play that many games last year because he had some injury issues. I think it was a shoulder. He only had 28 receptions last year, but that was good for 423 yards. He's a speedster. Yes, there are some questions about his hands. He dropped a lot of passes last year, and he did that in college at Notre Dame. But, hey, Will Fuller, second year in the league, and he's got that chemistry built up with Deshaun Watson, some guy you were talking about last segment. He's going to go deep. They're going to make things happen. And he plays on the opposite side of DeAndre Hopkins, who is arguably, top 2, top 3 receiver in the NFL. Watch out for Will Fuller. He's going to get deep in the secondary. He's going to catch a lot of balls over the top, and Deshaun's going to unleash the cannon downfield for Will Fuller. Granted, he's not going to be a very consistent fantasy player for you, but he's your home run hitter, right? He's going to have some weeks where he puts up 25, 30 points possibly. So he's the guy that can just go off for a big – he could have those Randy Moss type numbers where he has 3 receptions for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns.
That's an elite take by Ricky Palermo. My guy – Stefon Diggs. I wouldn't be a good homer if I didn't at least get one Viking on this list. But I believe it, and I would say most people do as well. ESPN has him ranked 16th. He's my 11th ranked wide receiver. And here's the deal, guys. He just needs to stay healthy. In his 3 years in the league, he's played 13, 13, and 14 games. In 2016, he had 112 targets in those 13 games. So you spread those out over a full season. His target share is just as high as most of the elite receivers. He also had 8 touchdowns last year in 2017, so he showed you that he can be a red zone threat. Kyle Rudolph has lost a step. He was really a playmaker early on in his career, and now I think he's transforming into that more of a Jason Witten role, more of a possession receiver. Look, Megaquan, as I like to call him, Laquan Treadwell, he hasn't necessarily been the red zone threat that we had hoped. I think this year he keeps his yards per reception average, which has always been one of the higher ones in the league. He's going to catch more balls. Him and Kirk Cousins have looked really good together during the preseason. Last year it was Adam Thielen who got more of the target share from Sam Bradford and Case Keenum. This year, I think Stefon Diggs might just be the better fantasy receiver out of the two. That is a subtle hot take from Alex Zappa, Ricky Pimo Palermo. Who's your tight end that we're going to end off with for this week's fantasy football?
Well, we talked about him last week. Jimmy Graham. He's on Go Pack Go. I'm not a Packer fan. I don't support the Pack whatsoever, but he scored 10 touchdowns last year. And again, the Packers don't have a great running back or running game, especially with Jones is the one who's suspended. One of them suspended.
Aaron Jones, yes, you were right.
Jones is suspended in the beginning of the season. So when the Packers get in the red zone, Aaron Rodgers likes to buy time. He likes to find big targets. He's got Jimmy Graham. I mean, it's just pick Jimmy Graham, okay? Boom, done.
I like it. Mine's Jack Doyle. He's ESPN ranked number 11. He's my 7th guy. Here's the thing, guys. He's incredibly efficient. He had 108 targets last year. He caught 80 of those passes, which is a great percentage, and I see that saying similarly. And he was the number 5th tight end last year in 2017. Now, and I was with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, basically. So now Andrew Luck is back.
Brissett's all right.
Okay, well, that's what the media says. I would beg to differ.
No, he's all right. But I like your pick on Doyle. Yeah, 108 targets last year. Unbelievable.
That's a lot of targets for a tight end. Exactly. And now Dante Moncrief is gone. All the weapons in Indianapolis are gone. All the running backs are hurt. The only guy there is T.Y. Hilton. So Doyle rules. He's going to get a bunch of targets, and he's going to catch them, and he's going to catch some touch. If Andrew Luck throws 33 touchdowns, which is not unrealistic to say, Doyle could literally catch 13 touchdowns. I mean, there's really no one else to catch. So
that's a bold take.
This is a sneaky pick for Zaps, but I like it. There's fantasy football. Good luck on your drafts this week. I know we have a couple ourselves. Rick will top this episode 20 off with one thought. What is yours?
I just joined a co-ed softball team. We had our first game on Tuesday, and we went Sweep City, won the doubleheader. We were up 5 going into last inning, and they scored 9 runs. Or we were up 4, and they scored 9 runs. So we're down 5, bottom of the 7th. I hadn't had a hit all day. I was 0 for 6 with 2 RBI. And I come up to the plate, get a hit with 2 outs. Throw behind me, gets a hit with 2 outs. And then our boy Logan hits the winning double, 2 RBI double. We won the game. We walked off, scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning. And Team Ump Yours is undefeated, 2-0 on the season.
Ump Yours. That's a pretty good name. I like that name.
It's a good name, yeah. Cocky, but also cool.
Going thought. Mine is we got a boys weekend coming up. We got 16 of us going to Dakota Ridge, 2 hours west of Minnesota. We're playing some golf, a little bit of gambling, a little bit of drinking. It's going to be phenomenal. So this is basically just a PSA to everyone. If you've had a boys weekend in your past, present, or future, just think about it, because this life is all about living and having those memories. So just a little suggestion, maybe go back in the memory bank, bring up those memories, and just kind of marinate on those a little bit, because when you get these chances to have these type of weekends, life is good. And before we shut the door on this one, I want to just say another big thank you to our friends over at Punch Bowl Social. Geraldine and Greg are over there managing. They're phenomenal people. Again, we talked about it earlier. They got a bunch of great food. They got great cocktails, non-alcoholic ones as well. They're awesome for corporate events. They got the Jenga. They have a bowling alley, ladies and gentlemen. They have literally a bowling alley in a legitimate restaurant. They got 3 bars as well. It's a phenomenal place. Give them a call at 763-400-3865 or visit them online at punchbowlsocial.com. You can book holiday parties, corporate events, fun nights out. Again, this is an SLP, shops at the West End. Really good staff. They got all the funds and games. Whatever you're looking to do, have fun, eat, drink, Punch Bowl Social has you covered, Rick, and we have covered episode 20 of The Flow.
Yeah, see you next week at the live show.
The Flow next week, again, a live show August 29th. That's the next time we will be talking to you. Please see us, and we would love to meet all of our loyal listeners. So for Ricky Palermo, online engineer and producer Brandon Morton, and again, a special thank you to DJ Brainpower. My name is Alex Zappa, and thank you for catching The Flow.